Hi everybody, thanks for joining us for Northern Ag TV. I'm Colter Brown. Well, big news from the Fish and Wildlife Service as the agency has denied the petitions from Montana and Wyoming that ask for endangered species protections to be removed for grizzly bears. Now that decision comes a little bit as a surprise because the populations in both the greater Yellowstone and northern Continental Divide ecosystems more than double the recovery goals. But the Fish and Wildlife Service says the bear will stay on the endangered species list. Actually, a big change coming with that announcement as they're proposing to change the management approach to grizzly bear recovery. Historically, bears are managed as distinct population segments, but going forward with the proposal, they'd manage all grizzlies south of Canada as one group. Now, maybe some good news here as they recognize the pressure that expanding populations of grizzlies puts on local communities. The service is proposing to offer additional flexibility and responsiveness on private lands where grizzlies are impacting private landowners and livestock producers. Elected officials in Montana like Governor Gianforte and Senator Steve Daines say that the Fish and Wildlife Service is just continuing to move the goalposts, which is making it more difficult on private landowners and livestock producers across the state. Well, of course, the Montana legislature kicked off their session in Helena on Monday. Certainly a lot to cover there. I spoke with Nicole Rolfe, who's the lobbyist for the Montana Farm Bureau, about some of the big topics that'll be covered there. Of course, things like property taxes, water rights administration, and the creation of the Montana Cattle Committee. And one related to the topic we just talked about, grizzly bears. Nicole says they'll be asking for a bill that would put black bears on the list of predators that the Livestock Loss Board compensates producers for animals lost to depredation.
As grizzly bears seem to be moving out further and further from their original territory and are consequently pushing black bears out with them, and that's causing more conflict with livestock. And so we think it's important that these folks who suffer these losses are able to be reimbursed for them. So we are looking to include black bears in the Livestock Loss Board and hoping to give our producers some relief there.
Well, imports of cattle from Mexico into the U.S. have been banned since November 22nd. That's due to the discovery of New World screwworm in the southern part of Mexico. But that will be changing soon as the USDA has announced that they expect imports of Mexican cattle to open up the week of January 20th. Now, it'll likely be a slow open to imports because of some new protocols and implementation and testing that'll need to take place, but those imports will fully resume eventually. The temporary suspension of imports has reduced the U.S. feeder cattle supply by somewhere between 250 to 300,000 head, which has helped to support prices, but once that border opens back up, we'll likely see some bearish pressure on our cattle futures. Thanks for joining us. Speaking of the cattle futures, we'll come back and talk about what they've been up to right after this.
From the beginning, we've worked closely with farmers. BNSF's ties to the agricultural community go back 175 years. Together, we've innovated to make the U.S. agriculture supply chain one of the most efficient and productive in the world. Our strong relationship powers BNSF still today and helps us move the nation like no one else can. At BNSF, we move the nation for you.
Talking with someone that you know is stressed out, those are difficult things to approach, but if you're good friends with those people, reach out and say, I'm here to talk to you. We can find somewhere to get some assistance. It's hard to get involved, but at the same time, you want to just say, hey, there is help available.
For more tips in dealing with stress in agriculture or for free counseling for egg producers, visit beyondtheweather.com.
Well, you don't dare sleep on the cattle futures right now because there's just no way to know what they're going to do. Tuesday, we saw both live and feeder cattle surging higher to new contract highs, but on Wednesday, they were falling lower, down $2 and $3. Certainly with a market that's at contract highs, we're open to some volatility and maybe some profit taking, so wouldn't be shocked if we do see prices continue to move lower. However, box beef values continue to stay strong, which is providing the incentive for packers to continue purchasing fed cattle, and we saw that market very strong last week with live sales averaging $199 and dressed at $315. Getting into our local markets, a great big sale in Riverton that I think had to be all-time highs for the calf market. Light 4-weight steers topped at $447, the upper 4 weights $380 to $412, 5 to 5.5 weight steers averaged $365, the bigger 5 weights sold $331 to $345, and light 6 weight steers from $319 to $331. The bred cow market started the year strong in Torrington. Big offering of bred heifers. They range from $28.75 to $33.50. Young bred cows $3,000 to $32.25. 5 to 8-year-olds average $2,600, and your short-term cows $19.75 to $21.75. And the wheat market did have a slight recovery from contract lows last week, but fell under pressure once again from the higher dollar index as traders are hinting the first rate cut of 2025 could be pushed out until June. Worsening winter wheat condition ratings did provide a brief lift in the market, but now the focus turns to tomorrow's World Supply and Demand report and the winter wheat seeding reports, where the wheat market is just desperate for some good news. Wednesday, we ended in the futures with March spring wheat at $5.85 and winter wheat at $5.50. Thanks for joining us this morning. I'm Coulter Brown, Northern Ag Network.